did gain some places back. There was contact later in his first stint and it put it out of the race. Also going off the road early was Hamza Vega. Got it back onto the circuit, but lost ground early doors. This was the reason for the first safety car. Nico Rindlisbacher up the inside, cannoning off the
would be Mikael Schrey who take control at the front of the race, but it was the battle for second place. Max Rosam and Leon Vasserthura fighting lap after lap. At one point, Leon Vasserthura making contact with the turn 3. Had a safety car, fairly optimistic move into that turn 1 by Enzo Julier. It was going to end the race for both drivers. Philip Viskersen also having to bring the BMW into retirement. After the pit stop, Josef Knopp had taken over from Finn Zulav. Simon Birch had taken over from Denny Burnt, and there was a battle for the lead, but Simon Birch
hooked it up rather better than Jan Kizil at the rolling start and got the Equus Motorsport BMW into the lead of the race. Very tight behind, very tidy, very clean racing through turn 1. Often a magnet for accidents, but kept it good through turn 1, turn 2. I can see the bodywork has already loosened the bonnet on the front of the 33 car. We saw it later flapping up, but it was loose at this.
Onto the grass as well. That's how tight it was in this battle for third position. There were winners and there were losers. The number 17 Camaro is starting to make moves in the hands of Joop Rapanga. Then you came to the pit stops and it was super busy, but it didn't have to be busy for the AGS events team. They could pick their moment. Haskell had an advantage of 10-11 seconds over Gabriele Piana's number 111 BMW. And by the time Tio Nue took over in the lead, Aston Martin, the action was all behind him, and you could see
Will Tregurtha went down from first to about fifth, and in the pack you can see just how easy it was to be caught out and have a little bit of clash here or get pushed wide there. The dust was on the circuit because some oil had been spilled. And making the moves in the early part of the race was Finley Hutchinson, who was getting that McLaren ever further up the race order. Just out
into second, and Tommy Gore being relegated down into third place, but there was so much fighting further back. Emil Heyerdahl and Lachlan Robinson, the two Porsches going wheel to wheel with Hugo Sasser, the 2-time former champion, also getting involved. The current championship leader, Enrico Federer, had a poor qualifying session, so had to fight his way back up through the pack, but was...
These 44 cars, they really behaved in the early stages of the race. Bit of a flame out off the back of one of the McLarens, then a massive off from the Maserati, but somehow just missing the barriers. The HHC Motorsport Ginetta fighting hard with the 76 Orlando Sport Porsche 911. Then we had this car going off to bring out Ginetta, and cruelly with a lap and a half to go, something went wrong. He wasn't a spin like that one for the Orlando Porsche, but all that one for the 13 Mark Bassing. Very unusual seeing him spinning, but that was a big moment in the Porsche Cayman. And as the battling at the tail end of the top 6 went all the way to the finish, there was a sudden late problem for the 55 Ginetta, fell down the order, but no such problem at all for the...
It was one of many battles that he had as he tried to fight his way forth. The championship leader continued to make progress, moving past Alex Connor for 5th place, more valuable points. And then it was the ME Motorsport BMW driven by Tommy Rackle, and here Linus Harner.
Straight away on the back foot. They never recovered the lap, of course, because although there was a safety car, period, by that stage it had already gone a lap down. Great battles raged on. Kasperlik getting involved with Teo Nue. Antoine Potti dispensed with the 111 Bachhausen BMW, both of them launching their way through the chicane. And then we had a full course yellow triggered. Pilz was turned around, others scattered in avoidance, and there was more contact lower down in the pack that brought out the safety car, take 1, and Mike Newbold's car out of the race, and so too also was the Chevrolet Camaro of Wolf Natan. Drama then for the BMW, off into the grab, and Alex Papadopoulos, because they gained places. The order had shuffled, of course, after the stops, and it would continue to shuffle into the second stint as Robert Constantin went through on the inside line in the Audi and kept on picking off places as the field wriggled its way out of the chicane onto the Mistral straight. Off the road and back on again went Constantin, but the former rallyman. We did have a spin from reigning champion Gabriele Piana exiting turn 2. That drops him to 34th, and he had a long recovery ahead of him. Number 3 Audi, started by Robert Constantin. I got involved first of all with Ricardo van der Ende. That did damage to the Audi, and it started to rack up the penalties as well, as the Robert Constantin Benjamin Lariche Audi was going to have a pretty tough day. Up front,
Philip Gogolok rejoining to eventually retake the lead in the number 1 car. Jan Philip Springhoff had handed the Cozy Racing by Eastside Motorsport Aston Martin over to the young Norwegian Storm Gjerdrum, who was making his debut at just 16 years old. Meanwhile, the ME Motorsport BMWs were fighting it out. Linus Harder had taken over the number 77 car from Tommy
Lamberts, and then the best battle of the race raged for an age between Gabriele Piana, just making the move there to go to second place ahead of Alec Udell. Then Alec had the rest of the race with so much company. He had Jan Kisil all over his tail, but somehow kept the yellow Mercedes behind him to hold on to third place. Spinners,
very muscular, working his way forward. Nikolai Elganyayan, there he goes to number 24, the teammate car, the number 16, got out of the way, went into the gravel, and that wasn't the end of its problems. But for Nico Elganyayan, he had to hang in there as best he could, but the pace of Cedric Freiberghaus took the number 1 Audi past, and there is number 16 in the...
Clearly not true, but for his stint, he soaked up the pressure. It was only on the pit stops that people got ahead, and we then seemed to have all the shuffling around him as into the race went the number 14 car. But there the Camaro coming out ahead, and that put Olivier Hart ahead, but largely because of being just slightly under by a second and a half on the pit stops. Another safety car was deployed when here the KTM of Dominic Olbert cannon into the side.
And unfortunately, what happened around the middle order, the 66 Bullet Racing McLaren coming across like a bullet, and the chain reaction behind. Some drivers guessed correctly. Quite a few cars caught out, half a dozen cars removed from the race. So we had the race, the track cleared up, and the race restarted behind the safety car, and that gave...
Ahead of Linus Harner, he had taken over from Tommy Rackel. J-Mo Hertling had given way to Enrico Federer in the number 11 SR Motorsport by Schnitzel and Mercedes, while Lachlan Robinson had taken over from Oscar Christensen in the number 31. He was going to have to fight his way back, but a challenge for the lead. Jan Marszałkowski, having taken over from Philip Gogolok, now moved into the lead ahead of Josef Knopp. Josef Knopp was now going to fall prey also to Max Rozam. It was going to lead car over to Denny Burns, who rejoined the race immediately ahead of Finn Zulauf. He'd taken over from Josef Knopp. Immediately, Zulauf was challenging for the top position. Championship leader Mikael Schrey had taken over the Hofer Racing by Bonk Motorsport BMW from Gabriele Piana and was up to 5th place. But then Bonk Motorsport BMW inherited the car at P15 but made it up position by position. Simon Conoprim tried to defend, but he ran wide into the dirty part of the circuit, and Gabriele Piana was coming through. Dennis Bulatov had taken over the Mercedes from Mark Di Fulgentio, and he was making progress as he tried to get back into the closing stages of the race. Leighton Fury had handed over the FK Performance BMW to Max Rozam, and he was carving his way back up through the field. But suddenly, the race leader, Mikael Schrey, had his mirrors full of Enzo Giuli. Time was running out. Less than a minute and a half of the race remaining, and Enzo Giuli looking like we are trying to avoid any dramas. The full course yellow was out for debris on the track, and some of it might have been caused by this incident here. Celia Martin getting together with the number 18 car with Emil Yedrum at the wheel. The debris going scattering. The stewards wanted to take a little look at that. It was only for 23rd or 24th position, and Emil Yedrum did a good job to point the car back in the right direction and continue in the race. Now, Max Wimmer falling back into the clutches of Daniel Gregor. He's taken over from Finn Zulauf. Finn Zulauf and Daniel Gregor, a great partnership with Gregor finding a route past, but it's the route for the lead that Springhoff has to surrender, because Hugo Sasser finally finds a gap on the inside, in the number 85 car going around the outside. And Ortmund deciding that discretion was the better part of valour. Janis Fischer led the way. Dennis Bulatov had made it up into 2nd place. Leighton Fury up into 3rd. But it was Hugo Sasser and Mike David Ortmund.
Chino 718 losing ground there, and then unfortunately a clash that left Ibrahim Okyai, who gained about 6 places, off into the gravel, brought out a safety car. A car that had already come in from pit stop, then clattered the barriers. That ended up down in 13th place. You don't hit your car, come away with that damage. But look at the quality.
The drivers closely, they have a perspective of the whole race. They see the contact with David Yarn, which causes him to spin, but no penalty is incoming. The pit window opens. Ben Durr enters the pit lane to hand the car over to his partner, Teo Noe. But Rodri in the race. No problems for Mark Di Fulgenzio though. A massive gap over second place, securing a convincing win over David Yarn. Hugo Sasser, who had taken over driving duties from Mike David Ortman, recorded a solid drive